Or we're not waiting for any other department heads. Good morning, John. Okay. The Wednesday, October 16th, 2024 meeting of the Gardner City Council Finance Committee will come to order. The clerk will please call the roll.
President Kaczynski.
Present.
Councilor Donald.
Present.
And Councilor Matt.
Okay, seeing as a quorum is present, is anyone recording today's meeting? Okay, item number 11404, in order to raise and appropriate $157,951 for the debt service department for operating expenditure budget for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. I don't know if the auditor, John, come on up, have a seat. Auditor Richard is here. I'll begin with you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Madam President. This is the annual supplemental budget that we normally put after new growth is certified every year. New growth constitutes about $32,000 and change of this. The rest comes from $125,000 worth of meals tax funding that was received. That's revenue that came in over budget because when we made the revenue for the budget, we didn't include a dime or a penny, I shouldn't even anything of meals tax. So now that we have the first quarter come in and we have our projections, this is lower than what the full projection is. We're projected to get around $250,000 of meals tax in based on receipts that the Commonwealth has received from their local sales tax, or their statewide sales tax that they do on meals. So based off of those projections, we should be getting around that amount, but just to be safe, since it's our first year, we're only doing $125,000 of that. That's going to the debt service department, mainly because with a lot of the fluctuations that we've seen in prices that we have in the market, while interest rates just came down a hair, doesn't mean that prices still aren't higher than they were before. And we're still paying that high interest on the debt that was taken out when the loan itself was taken out. So this is something that it's more of an investment into us, where new growth was smaller than usual, but still above budget. We have this new revenue in, but we don't really know the full extent to which that new revenue is going to come in. We're looking at just paying down some of the debt that we have, really just set us up so that we don't have to worry about that moving forward as we start to make the budget. I'm going to be sending out the budget memos to the department heads probably within the next couple of weeks to start crafting the 2026 budget. Probably going to have that due beginning of February. So just, kind of get us with what we can pay down so we know what we're planning for in the next year at a little bit of a better rate. So that's the supplemental budget for the current fiscal year. And that has to be done before we submit the tax recapitulation sheet, which is in conjunction with the tax classification hearing. All of that needs to be done before January 1st in order to set the tax rate. So it's all just part of that process.
Thank you. Auditor Richard, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I have nothing to add.
Thank you. Counselor, any questions, comments?
So roughly 50 to 70% of the projection of the meals tax is what we're using, and the rest is going to fall to free cash. That's the word. The phrase. Free cash. One question is the two numbers you have on here, the 32,351 and then the 125, but then the total is 157,951, which needs to be 600 more. Is that supposed to be 351?
Yep.
Okay. As long as that's, I don't know that, I didn't look at the other sheet if it was correct on that one, so it's not. So just get that updated for the
Council.
The meeting, but other than that, I have nothing else.
Yeah, the number on the document is correct, as my cover letter probably just needs to be added.
The document needs to be updated too, it looks like.
Yeah. So just the clerk take note of that too. The item would be 157,351. Is that correct?
Check that.
Yeah, double check that.
I mean, it's supposed to be 951, that's, I don't know what, it seems like to be right to me though. So.
Yeah, just double check the figure, and then if we can get that information to the clerk to be updated for the council agenda for Monday. Thank you for this letter. Your cover letters are always very helpful. Just for the public watching, and maybe this is also something we want to be sure that we report at the meeting. Free cash. What is the timeline for free cash?
Free cash was certified last week. You'll get all the notifications on free cash as communications for this upcoming meeting.
Thank you. Perfect.
2.6 million.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions or comments or anything.
Make a motion, we recommend passage to the full council.
Motion made by Councilor Delos. Seconded by Councilor Kaczynski to recommend passage to the full council. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion passes. And Mr. Mayor too, I think during the council meeting, I'd like to call on you for this item if you, and you're usually at the meetings, but we do have 3 new counselors who've never done a supplemental budget before, so I think that would be helpful for the public as well as just to be sure that we have them there. Although I know Counselor Generalats is going to do a fantastic report, I think it's helpful to have it come from you as well, so thank you.
Thank you.
Item 11405, an order authorizing $16,626.86 payment of prior year expenditure for public building utilities. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you very much, Madam President. This is the item that was before the council before that we withdrew to get more concrete numbers and provide the bills for you here. So this is for the overages and utilities over at our public buildings, mainly at the Waterford Community Center building. Until we get tenants in there, it's on us to pay that at our own. Now that we have the leases out for active RFP, those are set to open on November 15th, so we'll be able to hopefully award a tenant, probably I'm going to guess by December 1st or 2nd week of that month. But this is the previous fiscal year's bills that we received in after the July 1st start to the fiscal year for that building.
Thank you. And there were several things in place that we've done to reduce the cost in that building. Can you just give a quick synopsis of those?
Yeah, absolutely. So the 2-story wing has had all electric heat mini splits installed. So that may result in some increases in electricity. However, that doesn't mean that the cost savings is there on the oil side of things. We do need to get the boiler service, but that's actually substantially lower now because we have those new systems put in place. The lighting in the building has also been completely upgraded and converted into an LED system that's motion censored rather than a switch system. Prior to that, all of the classrooms had their own circuit breakers in each room, so the lights could have stayed on for however long it took someone to shut that circuit breaker off. That has since been completed there too, and then of course we're working right now with Select Energy. We've entered into that power purchase agreement now that the council declared the roof of that building surplus to install a solar array on the roof to help with the electricity in that building too. With the National Grid's permitting, we're probably still another year out before the panels get put on that roof, but we have that plan put in place.
Thank you. And what does that do for the roof of that building?
They were actually replacing the full roof as part of that project.
And that's at no cost to the city?
No cost to the city of that.
Thank you. I have no further questions or comments or anything. Counselor?
I have nothing further.
Thank you for providing these. I know that we asked for them, so, and you're typically as thorough as possible, but this is something that's, really helpful, just kind of in best practice of full transparency, so thank you. I will entertain a motion to recommend to authorize the payment.
So moved.
Motion made by Counselor Kaczynski, seconded by Counselor Dernilowitz to recommend passage of the order. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Item 11289, thank you, Auditor Richard. Item 11289, an ordinance to amend the code of the City of Gardner, Part 1 thereof, entitled Administration Legislation. So this has been on our agenda for a while. We bring this up the last few meetings. It's a very lengthy document. We do have some new information here, I believe.
Yes, so you have the red line version, you have a clean version of if it passes, this is what the code will look like, and then you have a copy of what the code currently looks like too, so you can compare them all.
So we did request this. Councilor Generalats has done a lot of work on this as well, so I really appreciate kind of the phases, like the steps we've gotten this in.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty clear. I don't have any further requests or anything right now. I just would like some time to absorb it if I'm being, we just got it. Counselor?
No, I agree. We're on version 5, 6. I don't know. At this point, there's been iterations of this. The newest, as you said, just got to us like a week ago.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to go through. We've taken our time. There's no reason not to continue to take our time and make sure we do it right. So I would recommend more time as well.
Yep, I'm gonna go ahead with that. We'll ask for more time on this item. And Madam Clerk too, if we could get a copy of just this item printed for each counselor on their desks, I think that would be helpful. I know something like this, for me personally, I find this to be really, really helpful to have in front of me. And so I'll just make a note of that to the council at the meeting, but I would appreciate if we could have it, this version. I think it's worth printing out this version even at this point, so.
There's a footnote now that says which version it is on the bottom. You can see it's version 6, version or whatever other one it was before. But.
Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna do more time. Item 11402, an order authorizing the city to enter into a 5-year contract for grant writing and government outreach services. Sorry. All these together. So This we received from Director Cormier, and we just did one of these like previously, but this was referred to us at our last meeting. I have no questions right now. If you want to go ahead, Mr. Mayor, and just explain what it is for the public watching.
Yeah, just anytime we enter into a contract for a period of over 3 years, it requires the council to vote to approve that. We can't go over 5 years, but we are allowed to add those additional 2 years on. This is something for the past couple of years, the city's had an on-call grant writing contractor with us. We've been capped at how much we can utilize them for because we can't go over $50,000 a year from Chapter 30B unless we go out for an RFP. And I didn't want to do that until we saw if it was worth it or not. And now seeing the return that we've had on the grant writers that we've had, in fact, quite frankly, we've got 2 right now. Our first contract is still active. It still has some funding in it with the Central Massachusetts Regional Planning Commission. They really handle our state grant applications that we have, where Keller Partners is our full-time grant writing and lobbyist firm that we have right now. They handle our federal grants and then some of the more complicated state grant applications, just because CMRPC is a planning commission, so yes, they do grant writing, but they're not, they may not have the time to do that with the other projects that they're working on right there. So that's worked out extremely well for the city. In fact, the return's been almost $20 million. For a $75,000 investment between what was first appropriated for CMRPC and what was then appropriated for the Keller Partners contract, to have spend 75, get 20 million back is quite the return on that investment. So I'd like to keep that going. So one of the things that we're doing is we've reached the dollar amounts now where we have to go out for an RFP, and I think it's proven successful, and I'm ready to put it out, and I think it's good for us to have there too. But I also think, one, we get a better price off of going to a 5-year contract. We get a better commitment from the company because they know that we're committed to them, so they're committed to us in our applications. And it's something that in order to go out for RFP, we can't put the RFP out until this authorization is approved. And if this authorization isn't approved, then we put the RFP out just for a 3-year contract instead of 5. So the plan right now is to do a 3-year contract with the ability to extend for an additional 2 years after that 3-year period is over, and be able to continue those grant writing services that we have. There's just so much funding that's been released from the federal government mainly, and a lot of that funding is coming directly from the federal government, and some of that funding is going from the federal government to the state, who then has their state application that's out there too. Some of it dries up in a couple of years, some of it doesn't. Some of it's been put into trust funds, some of it's not. Some of it, there's just so many different complexities associated with all the funding from the American Rescue Plan Act, and the Inflation Reduction Act, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and all of those other things that are there, that it's good to have someone who just knows this and is the expert in that field. So that's why I'd like to put out this RFP. So this is the request for the RFP to be able to go out at the next council meeting. I have the request for the appropriation to go with that RFP for the first year, and that's what I have to say on that. Thank you.
Thank you. So Keller Partners and CMRPC, that's 75 total, you said, right? With a $20 million return combined.
Yep.
And then can you just say real quick again, what's the contract with either of those?
So we started 2 years ago with a contract with CMRPC. It was a 2-year contract that said that they would help us with our state grant applications. So those are grants like the Green Communities Grant, the Best Practices Grant, the Compact Grants, and all those other things that come directly from the state. They've done a good job helping us with those grants. And it's those grants that are above and beyond what we're able to do in-house. It's particularly with the staff changes that we've had in some departments that have been helpful in training those staff on those grant applications that are done in-house. But that's really more of a technical assistance, where Keller Partner is really the firm that writes the grant and does all the reporting for the grant once received too. So that really takes the full burden off the city staff. Okay. On that one there too. The reason why there was a little bit of overlap is that we had a little funding left over in the $25,000 that was appropriated for CMRPC, so we were able to carry them over a little bit into this year. That funding will be exhausted at the end of this year. Okay. I was just saying that as an example to show how we've utilized these services in the past and how we're able to kind of see where that could take us in the future. This RFP would leave us with just one grant writing service.
Thank you. And then, so you said it was 3 years to extend to 5 years?
Yeah, so it's a 3-year contract, and if they do good at the end of the 3, the parties can agree to just extend the contract for an additional 2-year period. Okay,
and so what the council would be doing in this, because the vote is to authorize the administration to enter into a 5-year contract for grant writing, so is that
It's a contract for up to 5 years.
Up to 5 years,
Yes.
okay.
So since anytime we have the option to extend over that, we actually need council approval too. So even if, say we decide after the initial 3-year period, you know what, it's just not working out, it's just an evaluated period. So
3
you're
years
locked
it
in for at least that, but you could go up to the 5.
The 3 years a contingency, but you want to have the opportunity to go up to 5.
Yes.
So that's, I just want to be sure that was clear. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And then in terms of when we get grants and we have to receive them from the city and they have to go in all the right places to be recorded correctly, and maybe that helps that the auditors here, that's done well, the communication is going well with these places.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep. Oh, yeah.
okay. I think I remember when we did the CMRPC grant, we talked about this, we were like, one grant is gonna cover the cost of this.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's what's happened, which is a good thing. And I think we do a really good job in the city of not only applying, obviously, because we have this in place, but we also seek them out. We know that the money's available and we have to apply for it and do certain things. And I think on the city end, which a lot of what the city council is responsible for is we have to approve money to be spent in the city. And if certain grant entities, I guess I would call it, because it could be federal, state, or private, if they see that you invest in your own city, a lot of the time they are way more likely to look at you as someone that it's worth spending the money that they have available on because you put your own money into it as well. So I think that's a really good partnership of the work that we have to do here with, you know, certain projects and things that we end up putting some of our own money into. And it's a good justification for it because we get this basically supplemental money, which is, I mean, it's like, you know, a third of our budget, I mean, a quarter of our city budget through grant money. So I support this and I like to know that there's that 3-year contingency. I think that's actually a really great feature. Counselor, do you have any comments or questions?
No, not really, just the return on investment's obviously fantastic here. If we are, I guess, one question, if we are going down to one grant writer, are they going to help with the state level grants and federal level grant? They're going to body it all instead of 2 separate entities like we have right now.
Yeah, that'll be in the RFP.
That'll be in the RFP too. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and while we've worked with these two, it could be someone who's not these two. That's how these work. It could be work to someone else too. But it's one of those things that we evaluate on the lessons that we've learned. CMRPC charges by the hour for grant writing services. Keller charged a flat monthly fee for unlimited grant writing during that month, but an application may open up that month, an application may not open up that month. CMRPC solely did grant writing work. Keller also provided lobbying work, where they went and advocated for their grant applications or the initiatives that the city had going on that were related to some type of funding too. I think one of the things that I'd like to do with whoever is awarded the contract in the end is actually bring them in to present you know, at an informal meeting of the council, if that's what the council chooses to do, so that you could, 1, meet who they are, and 2, see the full work that they're doing, because the council's gonna be appropriating all the matching funds that are required to these two, and even though the state just passed the federal matching bill that allows for funding from the state stabilization accounts interest to be given to cities and towns as grants to cover the federal side of the match, those are still competitive applications to get that match covered by the state. So I think one way or the other, it's good to just get a full picture of what they're doing. They've got $158 million worth of applications currently pending for the city right now. And we're not gonna get half of those, but at least we tried. And maybe we get half, and maybe we get 3/4, maybe we get 1 of those 6. But in the end, we get something more than what we have right now.
We would have possibly applied for a fraction of that amount and got half of that.
Yeah.
So it's a big difference to get all those applications out there, and having someone, whatever group it may be, lobbying for it as well is fantastic.
I'm sorry, Councilor.
No, I would also yes.
I would suggest too, and I know that we have a lot of, your office does press releases and all those kinds of things, but if there's like a place that we keep grants, like the name of the grant, how much we get, all that stuff, if we could like put that on the city's website, you know what I mean, like in one spot. I just think that type of thing is helpful and just an effort for transparency, but also for people to really understand there's a lot of work that goes behind getting that money, but again, the return is just so much richer than the work that goes into it, paying for the work that goes into it, that it's worth doing. But I think, we say, we got 20 million back, having that itemized it only works, to the benefit of the support that gets behind having this kind of a contract. So in the future, I would just suggest doing that.
And to the meeting you talked about, not only for the council, for people at home, of the process, how it works, and what type of things whoever the group will be not pursuing.
Well, I mean, especially as a city councilor too, I could tell you, or any of us in the positions, I can tell you there's a project going on or there's something happening in the city and people don't know who pays for it. And we do a great job, I think, of putting signs out being like, this is federal funded or state funded and city funded or whatever it is. But we get the questions all the time, especially when people see some of the cosmetic stuff that's done and I think credit should go where it's due. And it's like, well, hey, you paid for it, but also we have a good partnership with whoever, in the state or at the federal level or a private, company or whatever who helped us out with it. I just think that's really helpful because I think to me, it's helped with conversations with constituents about how things work and the work that goes into it and why we do it. So,
And the money's gonna go somewhere. That's the other thing. So
it's available.
If it's a choice of Gardner's money going to Tuscaloosa or Tuscaloosa's money coming to Gardner, I'd rather get the money here.
Mm-hmm. No, I would definitely agree with that. So I think on this item, I will.
Motion to recommend passage to the full council?
I'll second that. Motion made by Councilor Denalowitz, seconded by Councilor Kaczynskis to recommend passage to the full council. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Motion made by Councilor Denalowitz, seconded by Councilor Kaczynskis to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Meeting stands adjourned. Thank you.